Hey guys, Stephanie here, and I'm back with more movie chatter. And what I have for you today are my picks of the week. And I've chosen 3 new-ish releases, and then I have chosen a few horror releases because we're still in October, so we're still rocking the horror content. And I'm just going to get right into my picks so we can blow through this. My first one, this is from A24. It came out a few weeks ago, but I've actually floated it on Instagram to see if people kind of responded to it. And I think this is a little more of a quiet release, but well worth your time. It's called A Prayer Before Dawn. It stars Joe Cole as Billy Moore. And this is based on a true story, and Billy Moore spent time in a Thai prison. He was actually from, I believe, the UK, and he ended up in Thailand. He was there to do Muay Thai fighting, and while he was there, he's involved in some drugs and some other illicit behavior, and he ends up getting arrested and thrown into a Thai prison. And I can tell you that at the beginning of this movie, I was watching it and I'm like, oh, what the heck did I get myself into? Because there's a lot of yelling back and forth, and it is not in English, and there were no subtitles. Every once in a while, a subtitle would pop up and just give you a few little blurbs of what people said, and I felt really confused, and it was claustrophobic and chaotic. And then I started to think that maybe it was intentional, because maybe that was giving us the point of view of Billy Moore going into this prison, and maybe how he felt. Because if he didn't understand what they were saying, and he was put in these situations where it was just people laying all over the floor and yelling and screaming and fighting in these cramped, disgusting, filthy conditions, and maybe it was to give us a perspective, you know, his perspective. So from that point of view, it made sense to me. Otherwise, I don't really know why they wouldn't have the subtitles, because I felt like I missed a lot. But once this film actually kicks in, I would say maybe after the first half hour or so, 40 minutes, once it really kicks in, what an amazing story this is. This is, not only is it a great story, but it's an education. You're kind of receiving an education into what it is in the Thai prison, and the experience that goes along with being in these types of conditions. And Billy Moore is definitely a man who struggled. He struggled with his demons. He had a terrible, terrible addiction to drugs and alcohol that haunted him. And when he gets a chance through the prison to participate, the prison actually has a boxing, Muay Thai boxing team, and they allow him to participate in it. He kind of convinces them to let him participate, and he does very well. And it gives him a whole new lease on life in prison. He gets to live with the team, he gets to train, he gets to eat differently, so it totally elevates him to a new level in the prison. And I can tell you that this was action-packed. Even though it was kind of in a subtle way, even before you get to the boxing, you really do get a glimpse into what the prison life is like, because this was filmed in an actual prison. And most of the people in this movie are not actors. They are real prisoners. So Joe Cole put himself in quite a position to get this role done, and he hit it out of the park. He did a fantastic job portraying Billy Moore. But it's definitely an education. It definitely shows you that you do not want to go to prison in Thailand. It is not like what we see here in the States. It is cramped, it is dirty, it is chaotic, it's crazy. But he definitely fights his way out, and he's fighting physically and he's fighting emotionally. Like I said, he's fighting those demons. But if you enjoyed films like Brawl and Cell Block 99, things like that, you're going to really enjoy this. I thought the cinematography was good. It was a little dark at times, but that was just, that's the environment they're in. It's a dimly lit environment, except for the outside shots. But the outside shots were well done. There were some beautiful shots of Thailand, especially when they moved them from prison to prison. But yeah, I would definitely say give A Prayer Before Dawn a look, because it's a really good one. It's a solid one. It's one that I'm definitely going to watch again, because, like I said, there is so much going on in the beginning that I'm sure I missed some things, and with the lack of subtitles, you kind of have to go on the nuances of the people that are going back and forth. But yeah, definitely give this one a look. I would even say it's worth a buy. I'm going to go out on a limb here and say it's worth a buy. But yeah, Prayer Before Dawn, it's a good one. And this next one, I've talked about it before, but it came out on Blu-ray, so of course I had to pick it up, and I'm going to talk about it again. It's another one from A24, and this is 8th Grade. And this I always forget the poor girl's name, Elsie Fisher. She does a fantastic job playing Kayla, who is in her last week of 8th grade. And we've all been there. We all know what a weird time that is, how awkward it is, and you're kind of trying to come into your own, but you're not really there yet, and it's a really weird time. And this, Elsie Fisher does such a fantastic job. I've even heard a little bit of Oscar buzz attached to her name, and I can totally see why, because she does such a good job at doing like just this understated performance where she really comes across as this shy, awkward kid who is just trying to figure things out. And another thing this film does really well is that being 13 today is a lot different than being 13 was when I was there, and I'm sure whenever some of you guys were there. And it shows how much of an impact social media has on young people today. This girl, she's so involved with her phone, she has her YouTube channel, and she's on Snapchat and Twitter and all kinds of things. Her whole life is, you know, social media, and she's always got the headphones in, she's attached to the phone or the computer. And there's so many times that her father is trying to have a conversation with her, and he just can't because she's just full on into the social media. But it's just accurate. It's a really accurate portrayal of 8th grade. And she does there's so many cringeworthy moments in this film, but they're honest and they're true. And like, she goes to a pool party and she really doesn't want to go, but she kind of decides she's going to go, and she feels so uncomfortable going in. But then you notice pretty much everybody else there is kind of feeling the same way. Everybody else is acting like they don't know what they're doing there either. So there's a lot of awkwardness, but she starts to meet other people where maybe she can make a connection, or maybe she can make a few friends and come out of her shell a little bit. And it's just a really good look at a really awkward time that we've all been through at one point or another. And if you haven't gotten there yet, you're going to get there. And this, I think, is a really honest look at that time in your life. And like I said, she gives a really great understated performance, and there are a lot of really emotional moments in this where, you know, I definitely felt myself welling up. Especially there's a point towards the third act where her and her father have a really emotional conversation, and that was a really, really special moment, I thought, in this movie. But yeah, I would say 8th grade is a home run all around. I know it's rated R, but A24 was showing this for free for kids that were in 8th grade, around, you know, around that age of 13-year-old age range. So obviously they think it's appropriate, and I can't really think of anything, maybe some language. I can't really think of anything why it would be too bad. Yeah, language and some sexual material, but there's nothing crazy that goes on. I would say this is something that's pretty appropriate for the whole family, at least people who are 8th grade and up. But yeah, definitely give 8th grade a look. It's definitely worth your time. It's paced nicely. It has some interesting cinematography. It has some really heartfelt moments. And I just think it's very, very relatable. Even if you're not 13, you've been 13, so it's definitely, definitely relatable. And I think this is going to be a home run for young people of this age. I think they're really going to relate to this one. But yeah, 8th grade, it's a good one. Check it out. And my last one, I actually haven't had time to look at this one yet, but I can't wait because I hear it's better than the first one, and I love the first one. It is Ant-Man and the Wasp. It's the latest release from Marvel, and I picked up the Blu-ray Steelbook from, this is the Blu-ray 4K Steelbook from Best Buy. I know there's also a 4K lenticular cover that you can just get from Best Buy, pretty much anywhere, I think. But this is the Steelbook. Like I said, here's the front. This is what it looks like opened up. You do have disc artwork, so that's nice. That's the 4K Ultra HD. And then we actually have disc work on the Blu-ray. It's a little more limited, but hey, it's something, right? And then we have some nice artwork inside. Shows Ant-Man and the Wasp. And I always love when they include interior artwork. I think it just makes it a more polished look. But I'm happy I picked up the Steelbook because I do have the first Ant-Man Steelbook, and I know that was a little on the plain side, but you can't get it anymore, and this one was actually even tough to get. But yeah, Ant-Man and the Wasp, I'm definitely looking forward to giving it a watch. I hear really good things about it, so if you have not seen it yet, I would definitely say pick it up and give it a look. So yeah, Ant-Man and Wasp is my third pick for home. Alright, so I am going to just cut away, grab my horror picks, and I will be right back. Okay guys, I'm back and I have my horror picks for this week. And my first one stars Vincent D'Onofrio in Chained. And this one was a really good surprise. I hadn't heard a lot about it, but I saw it on a few social media threads, so I figured I would pick it up and check it out. And Vincent D'Onofrio plays Bob, who is a taxi driver who also happens to be a serial killer. And very early on in the movie, he picks up a young boy, 9 years old, his name is Tim, and his mom from a movie theater. And they ask to go home, and of course he doesn't take them home. He takes them back to his house, where he kills Tim's mom off screen. He then decides to keep Tim, and he chains him in the house, and he decides to keep him as a slave, basically. Tim is to cook his meals, clean the house. He's not to eat unless Bob tells him he can eat. He's not to speak unless Bob tells him he can speak. He's basically his slave and his prisoner. And as time goes on, the character of Tim ages, and we now see him as probably like I would say a teenager. And he is still living this life. He's chained to this wall. He's left on this dirty cot. And he is only allowed to do what Bob tells him he can do. He never leaves the house. He is living in squalor in these filthy conditions. And when Bob comes home, he brings these women and he murders them. And Tim is witness to all this, and he wants Tim to help him bury the bodies, get rid of the bodies, whatever he wants him to do. And there are some elements of gore, and there's definitely the ick factor. It is a gritty, grimy look at a monster. Bob is a monster. And after I saw this film, I wanted to take a shower because I felt just grimy. And as time goes on and Tim gets a little older, Bob sort of elevates himself to a father figure. And he actually believes himself to be this kid's father. And he says to him, listen, you don't have anybody else, so I'm going to school you. I'm going to teach you about life. I'm going to teach you about people. I'm going to teach you what it is that I do. I'm going to teach you about women. And Tim wants no part of it, but he is scared to death of this guy, understandably. And this is what we see going on. And it is just a really disturbing look at just a monster. Bob is a monster. And through the film, we see there are flashbacks of Bob's life. And we see through these flashbacks how he became the person that he is today and how he ended up in this position. And what I can say about this movie, there's not a lot more I can say about it because I don't want to ruin anything, because the ending of this movie was such a surprise and such a twist. I don't want to ruin it for anyone who hasn't seen it. But it is really a good one. And if you've seen it and you've seen the ending, let me know without spoilers in the comments what you thought of it. But yeah, Chained is definitely a good one. And Vincent D'Onofrio gives an outstanding performance as always, but he is so believable as just this monster, sadistic monster. But yeah, definitely check out Chained if you haven't seen it. And this next one, I've heard a few people talk about it, but I've never seen it myself, so I picked it up. It's called The Devil's Candy. We have a family. Jesse is the father, and he has a wife and a daughter. Daughter's high school age. Jesse is an artist, and they are looking for a bigger home. And he is an artist who works at home, so he wants a home with a studio where he can paint. And they find the perfect house, and they find out from the realtor that there were deaths in the house. They said an old elderly woman fell down a flight of stairs. Her husband could not live without her, so he killed himself. Well, we saw early in the film that's not really what happened. They actually had an adult, mentally disturbed son living with them who was responsible for the deaths. The son was hearing all kinds of voices, and he was just clearly out of touch. Something was wrong. We don't know specifically what, but it had to do with these voices. And Jesse and his family take the house. They're very happy there. And one night, the adult son of the former owners shows up on the front porch. And immediately we see that he has a childlike mentality. He talks like a child. He's very simple. He says, you know, this is mom and dad's house, and I want to come home. And basically Jesse is freaked out, and he says, like, get the heck out of here. I don't want anything to do with you. You can't come here. You can't stay here. Go away. And, you know, his wife and daughter are upset. Obviously, they think he's being mean and cruel, and, you know, they say, obviously, he's troubled, and he's like, we don't need it. Just get rid of him. Soon after that, Jesse is trying to explain to his daughter, he's doing these commission painting. Now, Jesse and his daughter are all into heavy metal. They're into all kinds of metal music and rock, and the soundtrack in this movie is phenomenal. If you like that kind of music, it's a great soundtrack. And he's trying to explain to his daughter, you know, because she's changing schools, and he says, sometimes we just have to do things we don't want to do because that's what life calls for. And he says, look at me, I'm painting commission paintings of butterflies and gardens to feed us because that's what it calls for. He's like, that's not what I want to paint. He wants to paint his style, which is like the heavy metal, hardcore style, and whatever moves him, whatever he wants to paint. But he's not. So she understands, off to school she goes. He then starts to have these feelings that he doesn't know where they're coming from. He's hearing the voices just like the other guy did who was living in the house. And he starts to paint these paintings that are very dark and very disturbing and very almost sadistic. And he doesn't know where it's coming from. He has no recollection of painting them. He doesn't know where the impetus to paint them came from. He said he felt like just something moved through him and caused him to paint these paintings. He loses track of time. There's all kinds of weird things going on. And that's what I'm going to leave you with, because any more would ruin the movie for people who haven't seen it. But this is a really cool movie, and it's a really good premise, and I really enjoyed this one. I thought it was a really good one, and I think it's a little underrated, but definitely, if you haven't seen Devil's Candy, definitely give it a look, because it's a really good ride, and yeah, I really enjoyed it, so check that one out. And this one is from 2002, and I thought this one was really underrated. I really enjoyed this one the first time I saw it, and I just watched it again recently. Stars Bill Paxton, the late Bill Paxton, and Matthew McConaughey, and it is Frailty. Now, I wouldn't necessarily, this one is kind of a border between, it's light horror and a thriller. There's no gore or anything like that, but we have Matthew McConaughey as a grown man, walks into an FBI office and asks to speak to a certain detective or officer, whatever they're called there. And he starts to tell him that there's this case called the Hand of God murders, and he tells him he knows who the Hand of God murderer is. He believes it to be his brother. And he tells his story through a series of flashbacks to his childhood, where he says he believes his father, who's played by Bill Paxton, went nuts. He says, I had a normal childhood until one night my father said God came to him and told him that he had to kill people because they were demons. And they were only certain people, and that those were the only people, the people on the list were the only people they would kill. And what he would do is the father would bring these people back to the house, and he would want the sons to help him kill them. And Matthew McConaughey tells this detective that, I never believed in it, and I never participated, I thought my father was crazy, and my brother believed in it. My brother believed in everything my father was doing. He believed that God was speaking to my father. So we get this elaborate story, and we see the whole story through flashbacks, and it's a really, really compelling story. It's a really good story, and the whole movie is very, very solid. And I enjoyed it from beginning to end, but there's another one. This is a twist at the end that kind of changes the whole thing, and again, there's your rewatchability, because it is just a really good twist ending, and I think you're really going to like it. I really, really enjoyed Frailty. I thought the performances all around were great. I thought the story was really unique, a really good premise, and I just thought the whole thing from beginning to end was really good. So if you haven't seen Frailty, definitely give it a look. You can probably stream it just about anywhere, or even just pick it up. It's I think you can get it for like $5 now. I'll link it in the description. But yeah, Frailty is a really good one. And again, another underrated one. And I have a fourth one because I think probably most people saw this. I floated it on Instagram and everybody went nuts for it. But it was a viewer recommendation, and I want to say thank you, and that I really enjoyed it, and show you that I picked it up. This stars Emile Hirsch and Brian Cox, and it is The Autopsy of Jane Doe. And for the other 5 people besides myself who haven't seen it, I'm going to give you a brief explanation. We start out at a crime scene, and we have all these people murdered upstairs, and in the basement they find a partially buried woman right here. She is also dead, she's partially buried, but they take her to the local morgue where Emile Hirsch and his father are, and they are going to perform an autopsy because they need a cause of death. This woman doesn't appear to have a scratch on her. There's no evidence of physical trauma. They can't find out what is going on with this woman. And as they start the autopsy, I can tell you there's plenty of gore. It's an autopsy, and what seems like a very simple premise, an autopsy, becomes a really elaborate story and a really cool film. So that as they do the autopsy, they start to find clues in her body, and it answers a lot of questions as to what happened to her, how she died. And not only that, but the more they get into this autopsy, the more all these crazy things start happening in the morgue. And there's a lot of supernatural things that happen. There's a lot of almost hallucinations, hallucinogenic things that start to happen. They start to see things that maybe aren't there, maybe they are there. But there's a lot of weird things that start going on due to this autopsy. And I can tell you, this was a wild ride. It scared the crap out of me. There was a creep factor to this. Just even the building that they're in, it's old, it's dark, it's creepy, it's scary. Like, you can't even imagine being there at night. And they're there at night, and it's during a storm, and it is just creepy and scary and good. This was a solid movie all the way through. And when you come to the end and you find out all along what's been going on with this woman and what caused this woman's death, you're going to be blown away. It is a really, really unique look. They take a very basic premise and make it a really unique story. So I really enjoyed The Autopsy of Jane Doe. And if you haven't seen it, like I said, if you're one of the 5 people like me who haven't seen it, definitely give it a look, because it's really a good one. And I want to thank the person who gave me the recommendation for it, because it was definitely an enjoyable one. So those are my picks for new releases and my horror picks. So hopefully between the 2 piles you found something or a few somethings that you enjoy. And I hope you enjoyed this. I want to thank you for watching. I enjoyed doing it for you. If you liked it, give me a thumbs up, comment, subscribe, hit the bell, share the video around. You guys know how YouTube works. And again, I appreciate you guys showing up and even just watching. But I'm going to be back real soon. I have a new Universal Monsters box set that I'm going to be doing a video on, because I love the Universal Monsters. And I want to get that up before the end of the weekend, because I also have a very special shout out that I'm going to do during that video. So you can look forward to that. But other than that, that's going to do it for me today. So for now, that's a wrap.